Welcome, friends,
to the How-To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
And I'm Uncle Dan.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
But it can be a scary world. Things work differently now.
Never fear. That's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields,
we're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge we all need for building a great life.
After all, you only get one that we know of, so you better make the most of it.
Damn straight.
Let's do the show. Well, friends, this week Auntie Mel joins us to talk about an unfortunate-looking fellow.
Is it me? I think it's me, isn't it?
Oh, you'll find out.
Everybody will find out later. We're also going to be joined by Andrew Torrez, a brilliant legal mind of our age, who will guide us through some legal quagmires. He's out of the Opening Arguments podcast.
And we will be joined by Professor K, who's going to teach us to read all over again.
Yeah, you think you know how to read.
But do you?
But do you?
Let's do the show.
Well, Auntie Mel is here, and she's going to give us she's going to talk to us about a saint. We decided we would talk a little bit about the saints out there in the world. So Auntie Mel's going to help us find our patron. And who's our saint today, Auntie Mel?
I'm so glad you asked. Saint Drogo.
Saint Drogo!
Is it called Drogo?
Drogo.
Saint Drogo is... Who's Saint Drogo?
Yeah.
Well, you might think he is the saint of dragons.
Right.
Drogo.
He's a patron saint
not.
of horse-wielding maniacs.
Horse wielding?
Yeah, I guess you don't wield a horse.
You're having an off day.
You're having an off day.
Always.
Your face is an off day.
I appreciate that you guessed because you're so wrong. He is the patron saint of unattractive people.
Oh.
And...
Podcasters. The patron saint of podcasters. Now
and
we
this
know.
is important, you guys. The patron saint of unattractive people and coffee house owners.
Oh,
Same.
And coffee house keepers.
Okay.
So owners and employees. Owners and operators.
It is so insanely general and then so specific.
Insanely
crazy
specific.
specific.
And hernias. I just want to throw that in there at the end.
You made that up.
I didn't.
So,
I mean, there are, and a sheep herding, but I feel like we have so many sheep herding saints. We don't really need another one.
Yeah, the Bible is just lousy with shepherds. It's just
Right.
shitty
Yeah,
with shepherds.
they need a lot. They need a lot of saints to cover all that
true.
ground.
Exactly. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to focus on that part. I want to focus on the unattractive people.
Right, sure.
And the coffee house owners and operators.
Where is this saint from? What was his background?
He is Flemish. So
Okay.
So he was born to a rich Flem family.
Yeah, sure. You got to love the Flems.
The Flems are
At
delightful.
least it wasn't a fucking filthy Walloon. Right?
Don't even know what happened.
That's the other ethnic group in the Netherlands. The Flems and the Walloon and Belgium. Fuck, I don't know. Anyway, go on with the other.
Yeah.
Thank you. He was born in 1100.
Oh, okay.
So
Solid round number.
As I share his story, I want you to think of who he was a precursor to. Someone that we all know.
Okay.
Okay, that's. I feel like this is going to be kind of exciting because we're really going to think hard on this.
This is like a saint game. We should turn this segment into kind of a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be a game show.
Yeah.
Right, and if you get the right answer, you buzz in, and if you buzz in correctly,
that's
you
right.
get.
We reveal you as
we
the
have
most
to-
unattractive person.
So okay, so his mother died during childbirth, and his father had died previously. So he felt insanely guilty that he killed his mother.
He killed his mom.
Because
He's a murderer.
he did. So
He's an ugly murderer.
He committed
he wasn't ugly yet. You guys,
Oh.
you're getting ahead.
he committed abortion backwards. Reverse abortion.
So
That was a thinker. That one's a thinker. It's
That's
okay.
that's a head
Thank
scratcher.
you.
I'm going to work on that one.
I appreciate that.
Can you do it on your own time, though? Our listeners are trying to learn about a saint here.
We'll edit this part
Saint
out.
Drogo.
Yeah.
And he has other names, but Drogo is the best one. Drugo is a nice one too. But okay, so at 18, he decides I'm going to go on pilgrimages. He actually did some sheep herding before that, but
As
then
you do.
As you do. So he
It's a good first
gave
job
away
for a young man.
all of his property,
Okay.
right, to the heirs. So they got all of his home and his property, and then he.
How much property do you have at 18? Well, I guess
he was landed.
He was the sole
Phlegm.
heir
that's
He
right.
was landed phlegm.
of mom and dad Drogo.
he was high society phlegm.
Yes.
Yes, he was.
So he goes on like 8 pilgrimages, and
Okay.
on the last one, the poor guy is stricken with an unsightly disease.
Oh, dear.
That makes him that deforms him.
That disfigured him. In
Yes,
some-
he's disfigured. He's
like
deformed,
leprosy or something.
and he is ugly.
Oh dear.
Very unattractive. So he comes back to the little French town where
I
he's
feel like it's
living
getting
now.
judgy here.
I
I'm
know.
just gonna
I
say.
know.
No, I didn't.
Well,
I
wait.
just felt bad for him.
Yeah. but
Okay.
Wait until you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
It is actually part of the story.
Oh,
So
good.
he gets back to his, the little French city village where he'd been living in between pilgrimages.
Sure.
And they're like, "Ooh, you were kind of a buzzkill before with like the hair shirt and all of the pennants. Now you are really unattractive.
This has not
So
gone well for you."
We feel really uncomfortable looking at you.
He was just a totally unfuckable
You
pilgrim.
hurt our eyeballs.
Yeah.
So what we'd like you to do is, we've got that old compost pile right next to the church.
Yeah.
Why don't you build a hut
Why don't you throw yourself in it?
and live in it?
Okay.
Live in the hut, and we'll just bring you barley, water, and of course we'll bring you the Eucharist. Like you don't have to worry about that. Just he got a little window,
Okay. Oh my God.
and he
You're in ugly people jail.
yeah.
You fuck. We.
And they were uncomfortable. The poor villagers.
And I got to
He was
ask, by the
ugly.
standards of the day in 1120,
Right.
What was ugly?
the ugliest person in the village must have been
Amazing.
stupendous.
It's not
Yeah.
just the ugliest person in the village, because like that guy was fine. You're so ugly. Listen. Do you mind?
You're
we
so
just
ugly.
need to never ever have to see you.
Right.
Ever.
You need to be in a shack.
if you insist on living,
Right.
which
Which
think
he
you shouldn't.
did for another 40 years.
Oh my God.
In the hut.
Oh
he
my
didn't leave
God.
it.
He never
So
left his hut.
Everything.
He stayed in it.
in the hut for another 40 years. He died at like 86. It was 84, 86. Yeah.
Like Quasimodo was a whiner compared to this guy.
You guys, that was my whole thing. I'm like, this is Quasimodo.
This is
Victor Hugo totally stole this and made a big, long novel out of it.
yeah.
Typical.
Hugo.
Typical Hugo.
Typical France taking a Belgian guy and
Well, he was in France by this time. So
Oh,
he went,
okay,
now,
so-
I didn't make that clear. He started out. He started out in a little Flemish town.
okay.
Ended up in a little French town.
okay.
Yeah, and then all that happened: the pilgrimages, and then the blighting.
The blighting.
And then-
as you do.
and then
yeah.
and then he would take the Eucharist through a crack,
He had a little. Well, he had
like
it
a
was
mail slot. He had
Yeah,
they would mail the Eucharist.
Yes,
And
and
whatever
water.
food and water he
I mean,
needed.
well, no, not whatever food and water.
Oh, just-
he got barley, water, and the Eucharist, and he would sometimes, I guess, request ash because he would incorporate that.
Well,
I guess
I
for
mean-
any time he wasn't feeling quite humble enough. And
How do
just
you
as a
can't just get it?
reminder.
You have to request ash.
Unless I guess he could have had some ash
I just
in his little hut. I mean,
just
this is a small hut. It's
picture a
not like
guy-
a big old house.
all I want is
He
to
had to
hear
build the
him
thing
go.
himself. They didn't even build it for him. He had to build it himself. So,
Oh
and I don't know what tools were
Let's-
like
okay.
in 1105. It would have been 40 at the time. He was about 40 when he started that project.
And the guy who feeds him, like the guy whose job it is to get him his
I
food
gotta
and
go
stuff,
feed the ugly guy. I'll
you,
hurry.
You know that when he's sick, he didn't always remember. Like he was just,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, those
I'm
days.
taking a day off. I'm not, and then like 2 days later, he's like, oh fuck, I gotta go.
I gotta
gotta
feed
feed the
Take
ugly
some
guy.
barley
Drogo.
down to.
Gotta take a little
Drogo.
barley to Drugo. Yeah, Drogo. Drugo.
Okay, so
Can I call him
he's-
Drugo?
Drugo or Drogo. I mean, Drogo is kind of his official name.
I think
but
the
Drogo's
lesson
nice.
to take from this, more than don't be ugly,
Which
important.
seems to be a very strong lesson to take from
is
this.
that
Right.
you can live to 86
On
On-
eating barley water.
barley, water, and you guys, the Eucharist. He's taking the Eucharist.
The body
that's
of Christ.
true.
Duh.
That's right. That's how you get your protein.
Protein is
is
the body of
of Christ.
You Jewish guy. You some Jewish guy. So to be a saint, Drogo had to perform miracles, or miracles have to be
I'm
ascribed
so glad you asked about
to
that.
him. So what did he do?
Well, he had a magical power.
Whoa.
He
was not escaping huts.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually,
more than it was definitely not getting handsomer.
he was seen simultaneously at Mass and working in the fields. Bing.
That I mean,
He
that's
could appear in two
impressive.
places at the same time, you guys.
That's really cool, but who let him out of his hut? Is what I want to know.
Well, and here's where it gets a little foggy, like a little fuzzy. Like I don't know how long he was performing that miracle of appearing in two places at the same time. I think it was before the blighting.
The miracle of just being boringly servile in two places.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Right.
Spending all day in the fields and at Mass. That's two times the fun.
Is he also the patron saint of
Patience?
Doppelgangers.
Right, or multitasking?
Or
yes, all of ugly doppelganging multitaskers.
and coffee houses. And the coffee house.
Is there such a thing as a doppelgangbang? Is that a thing?
Oh, that's a great
Where you-
idea.
where you fuck your double?
When you fuck somebody that looks like you, boom.
Well, when you fuck two somebodies that look
Yeah,
like
Right, yeah, exactly.
It has to be, yeah. Or you and your doppelganger are both.
Doppelgang banging somebody else,
Yes,
a third
just
person.
a one. You could each be doing one, and then there's four. There's four going on.
I think we've blown the lid off something here, guys.
I do too. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I feel like we do need to get back.
And it was a
though.
perfect segue.
So why coffee? What's that about?
I'm gonna go ahead and say I don't know.
It's the ash. It's you know what? It's that barley stuff. He invented a great drink.
'Cause
Coffee house
They
owners.
do tend to kind of assign. They try to like find some strange little tissue to
Yeah.
say, "Oh,
I found-
television, St. Clair, duh."
Yeah.
She appeared on a wall.
Yeah.
She here's the thing. They did say that in coffee houses were a place where people could sit and like it was somewhere where people would sit and talk and kind of.
And they're often dank and small, so maybe it's just like his.
It reminded him of home.
Yeah.
And a little bit ugly.
Sweet.
And baristas are frequently.
Yeah, isn't that horrible? Yeah. Other than, and I was trying to figure out, like that was the explanation, and I was like, they talk a lot, and so that like that's where people can get together and talk and maybe philosophize a little, and somehow that relates to unattractive, herniacal.
Yeah.
Herniacal? Is that a word?
I made it up. It goes with when you have a hernia, you are herniacal.
Herniacal. Love that. You herniacal son of a bitch. I love this saint stuff because I think Catholicism has just never really managed to kind of fully deal with their polytheism.
It does. Yeah, it doesn't. They never quite explain it. There's never. It's just this sort of side hustle that they work.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you're supposed to pray to God, but I mean, we all know how busy God is. Maybe do this, dude.
It's like Santa and the elves.
Yeah.
It's like the elves.
Right.
That's exact. And Santa was a saint. He was the Bishop of Turkey.
Santa, yeah.
Saint Nicholas.
Saint Nick.
Saint Nicholas was
Does, yeah. So
and his
they
elves
handed it to
in
us.
Turkey. His Turkish elves.
his Turkish elves.
Well, thanks, Auntie Mel, for exposing us
Hey, that was my pleasure.
to Khal Drogo. Everybody pray to him if you're ugly. Maybe
Yeah.
you'll get better.
Probably not.
Moving on.
Well, Uncle Dan,
Yes,
we are debuting what I hope will be a very exciting, and I know will be a very exciting and super informative segment of the show.
No pressure, Andrew.
No pressure. So why don't you tell the folks the get we got?
So here's what we got. We got Andrew Torrez, esteemed podcaster and legal expert from the Opening Arguments podcast, and among other things. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I was really looking forward to being on the show. I'm very excited.
I can't believe the blackmail worked. So as long as you keep coming on,
That's right.
everything will be fine.
Nobody will know about the thing.
Right.
Okay.
So, we have a million different topics that we could talk about, but I think one that is always part of the national conversation, certainly in this country, is prayer in schools.
Yeah. So we, here's the thing. We live in the United States of America. I don't know if you guys know that, but in these United States of America, there's a whole shitload of Christians, and boy, do they want it to be legal for us to pray, or for their kids to pray in school and to force the kids to pray and all that sort of thing. So, Andrew, is that legal?
Well,
talk to us a little bit.
Yeah, I wish I could give you an answer that said yes or no, but it's actually kind of nuanced.
Oh, and, God damn it, lawyers!
Yeah, I know. I rarely give a yes or no answer, even when it's not nuanced. So, but I mean, this is an area that I think people on our side frequently misunderstand, and certainly people on the other side misunderstand, sometimes intentionally so.
Right.
So what's the rule? The rule is you may not have government-sponsored prayer in a public school. Okay.
Now this is based on that Constitution thing we got there.
Yeah, well, it is based on two Supreme Court cases interpreting the First Amendment to the Constitution, and specifically the Establishment Clause that forbids Congress from establishing a religion.
Right.
And those two cases are Engel versus Vitale, 1962 case, and Abington School District versus Shemp from 1963. And
Larry and Curly didn't get involved in that one?
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that I frequently point out is that, that 1962 seems like kind of a long time to have elapsed from the founding of the country on something that seems fairly straightforward and obvious. And it is, one of the points that I make on opening arguments fairly frequently is a large list of what we think of as sort of our core constitutional rights really date back no further than the 1960s or 1970s. And this is one of those. So what happened? Prior to 1962, it was commonplace, near ubiquitous in public schools for those schools to engage in open proselytizing, for them to have administration-led prayers, to have devotional Bible readings, all sorts of bad stuff.
Yeah, yes, bad to us anyway.
Yeah.
At very least, exclusionary to those who don't believe in that same religious persuasion.
Correct. And look, bad. Even if it's sort of hard for me to put myself in this mindset, but like, even if I were a Christian, I don't think I would want more didactic, sort of recitations in a public school, right? Like in my view, part of what high school is meant to do is to help transition young people to, prepare for their role in the world. My son just turned 15. He's a freshman in high school. Like, this is the time period where good schooling, good education, like fosters independent thought and critical thinking, and having kind of blind recitation is something you should be against, even if it's inculcating the values that you want them to inculcate, right? Like,
I feel like you think that everybody wants their kids to grow up with like good thinking and critical thought. I don't think that that's the case all the time.
You spent a weekend at Temple Square with us, Andrew. You know what's up.
That was one of the best weekends of my life. That was so much fun.
That not everybody says that about Temple Square. So
right. Or about us. About hanging out with us.
So let me ask you a question, Andrew. So when I went to high school in Salt Lake City in the mid 80s, and there was prayer. It was a public high school, fully public high school, and there was prayer at the beginning of every assembly. There was prayer. Our coach made us pray on the bus before the events of the athletic team I was on. Were they in violation of those court findings at that point.
Yeah, probably. But let's talk about I mean, there's sort of three.
Andrew, can you help me sue the school district?
I'm fairly certain that the statute of limitations has passed on your experience. There. Sorry,
he's saying you're old, Mark. You're an old man.
Well, me too.
Yeah, right.
But here are the three parameters. I mean, you'll notice that I very specifically said it can't be government-sponsored prayer in a public school institution, right? So so the first thing is if it's not a public school, and I know that doesn't apply to your case, but I get these questions a fair amount. If the school is not a public school, even if it incidentally receives some public funds for reasons that we could talk about, but if it's a private school, if it's a private university, all bets are off. Right, the First Amendment doesn't apply inside the walls of non-governmental institutions.
Okay,
right. The only reason it applies in public schools is because they're an agent and instrumentality of the state.
Right, and if you go to a private school, then that's your choice. You signed up for that.
Yeah. And let's not forget that so many of the private schools are church owned. So
but
it seems natural that they would be.
I get questions like that. I mean, when my son went to a Montessori school until the sixth grade, and I would have an open, secular, inclusive, liberal, hippy dippy Montessori school.
Sure.
But I would get questions from people who were uncomfortable about certain religious aspects taking place, right? Usually on the other end, right? Like they're sort of promoting more diversity of respect for Muslim holidays and that sort of thing.
Right.
And I had to say, like, look, this is there's no state action taking place here. So, your complaint is a consumer-based complaint with the administration and not a constitutional one. So it wasn't in the hypothetical, but I think it's important to kind of establish that.
Sure. Right. Sure.
The second is that the prayer, the offending activity has to be initiated by a school official. Okay?
Right.
And
that can be a teacher, that can be an administrator, that could be a coach, anybody who's sort of in their employment facility as an employee of the school, right?
Right, exactly right. But the loophole that you could drive a truck through that leaves open is anything that is considered student sponsored is pretty much okay. And there's an exception that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But let me tell you how that plays out all the time, right? Which is, and these cases occur with astonishing regularity. Third grade class, all of the kids give out little Valentines on Valentine's Day, right? And the school permits that. And one of the kids whose parents happen to be particularly overbearing fundamentalists sends their child in armed with, Bible tracts.
Right.
And the kid, and little tot, marches down the aisles and hands out horrible chick tracts on Valentine's Day to all the kids. That's protected. Right, that is protected.
Sure. And it's also in the spirit of the holiday, because what's more fun than telling your third grade classmates they're going to hell?
Right,
Right?
exactly. Hell, particularly the Catholics. Yeah,
so fun for the kids.
and look, like,
will you abstain with me?
You get the philosophical principle of protecting the 7-year-old's right to the free exercise of religion.
Sure.
But on a practical basis, those are parents. That is a religious authority disseminating that religious material in there, and that's often how you get around the coach leading the prayer. Right? Is you establish testimony on the record where the captain of the football team says, "Hey, I'd like to lead you all in a prayer on and I'm feeling a little bit nervous today. So, coach, can you help me out?"
I see.
And
so
all of a sudden,
the coach can even say the prayer as long as it was initiated by a student?
I don't want to say yes or no. Right? That would be look, that would be an edge case, right?
Right.
if you want the case that is sort of the best case for our side, this is a 2000 case called Santa Fe Independent School District versus Doe, and it was a 6-3 case. The bottom was Rehnquist, Scalia, and Thomas. So the axis of evil that was on
Hell's Angels. Yeah.
And so here's what happened at this school. Students voted every year on whether to have a prayer before the big football games, right? And you know that this is a Texas case, right? If they voted yes, then the students picked who would read the prayers. And then students would write the prayers, would get on the PA system before the football game and read out the prayers. And the school restriction was that the prayers must be, quote, non-sectarian and non-proselytizing. Okay.
What's left?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, God, please bless the, speed and vigor of our football team and allow us to smite the, I don't know.
Yeah, the evil Cougars who are coming to play us.
Yeah, right. I'm not good at coming up with football prayers off the top of my head. But so you can see all of those criteria being put in there to try and insulate the activity, and yet the Supreme Court said no, that's not good enough, right? The fact that it was student initiated is not sufficient to overcome the problem if it can be coercive on the other students.
Right.
And the fact that the football game was not compulsory didn't make it not. It did not alleviate the coercive effect here, and the opinion really got into peer pressure and apparently going to the high school football game in Texas is kind of a big deal.
It's mandatory. That's more mandatory than math class in Texas.
Yeah. So in that situation, the Supreme Court analyzed that and said, yeah, this is really still the administration giving its imprimatur to religious expression because even though we've tried to insulate it, right? We have kids leading the process, but you still have, the school resources, you still have it being at a school activity, you still have an atmosphere that sort of smacks of coerciveness. And that, there aren't a lot of, there's not a single line test that I can give out here to say whether behavior is, falls on one side of the line or the other. But the closest that I can come is that notion of, is there coercion? Is there going to be a hook for the court that says some students are going to be forcibly subjected to a religious message that they don't want to hear, and look, like, how is that different than the atheist kid who gets a chick tract with his Valentine at on in third grade?
Right.
That's what I mean by saying it's a tough line to walk.
It's tricky. I think it's one of those things where all of the Christians are screaming that we've taken God out of the schools. And it really is just a matter of like, no, any one of their kids could pray at any moment in the day at school on their own. What we've done is just not made it so that the school themselves doesn't pray at your kid.
Yeah, and let's go beyond that, right? Students can pray in free time. Students can form religious clubs and organizations. Students can host after-school religious events.
And I would land on the side of if somebody on our side was trying to prevent that, I would call bullshit on that. Yeah, because that is absolutely a person's free will, to do as they like. It's just what I think a lot of Christians in America, especially, we have listeners overseas as well, but a lot of what happens here is they don't understand that these laws probably protect them more than they protect us, Andrew. Because we're a tiny minority.
This is something that I have tried to beat the drum about. if you look back, and I have done this both for actual research purposes and for podcast research purposes, but if you look to the 1950s, the principal advocates of the separation of church and state in the 1950s are religious institutions.
Right.
And it was absolutely a part of the landscape that that no side wanted to wind up on, the minor, right? Like,
Right.
You certainly didn't want to pave the way to allow, Mormonism to be taught in Utah schools. So you gave up the right to teach Catholicism in Massachusetts schools.
Right. It seems to me that like that's the key to this. Like all you have to do to convince someone of the worth of separation of church and state is point out that like there are parts of this country, Dearborn, Michigan has a heck of a lot of Muslims. How do you feel about the school making all the kids pull out their prayer rugs 5 times a day and kneel and pray to Allah?
And in fact, they're illustrating that there was a school in Texas that made religious accommodations for 2 Muslim students on the same basis as they were making for Christian students. And that story got picked up by Fox News, 6 months ago and turned into, there's a secret madrasa, hiding within your Texas school. I mean, it utterly without any kind of self-conscious awareness of the irony. Bringing out the Muslims, the Mormons, the Scientologists, our friends at the Satanic Temple, right? It should be sufficient to show that when the shoe's on the other foot, you're less of a fan. But look, we have at least 3 and possibly 4 Supreme Court justices right now who subscribe to a view of the First Amendment called accommodationism that says the Establishment Clause is meant to prevent the government from preferring one religious sect to another, but is not meant to prohibit the government from preferring religion to secularism.
Right.
My God.
And that's a terrifying result. And again, we're one vote away from potentially one vote away from engaging in the kind of motivated religious activism that is absolutely antithetical to the spirit and history of the country.
So everybody get out there and keep Ruth Bader Ginsburg alive. That's what we're saying.
Thanks for your third-party protest votes in 2016.
Totally.
Right. All right. Well, without getting too political, thank you so much, Andrew, for coming on.
And Andrew, if our listeners want to find you, where do they find you?
Sure, Opening Arguments. So if you enjoy this kind of stuff, then you'd probably enjoy the Opening Arguments podcast. It's openargs.com. Do a Google search for Opening Arguments. You'll find us.
And we'll put that in the show notes so people know right where to go for a lot more information on this and other subjects. Uncle Dan.
Yes, sir.
We sure have some people to thank.
We do indeed. This entire enterprise of ours is, at least for the foreseeable future, going to be entirely listener funded.
That's right. You are the cash beneath our wings.
You lift us up.
Where we don't belong.
Where we do not belong. But yeah, we got some beautiful people to thank. So these are people who have gone to our website,
howtoheretic.com,
and then clicked on the Patreon button that gets you over to our page there. And these people have all decided to give us a per episode donation.
Unbelievable. Lay it on me.
Something we couldn't be more happy about. So thanks so much to Kim, to Doug, Karen, Joe, Christiane, Phelan, and Beth for being this week's superheroes, for starting out supporting us.
We are still just delighted and surprised by this international outpouring of love and dosh.
But don't let that surprise fool you. We still need your help. If you want to be part of it, just do what we told you and join the ranks of these wonderful people.
Hallelujah.
Moving on.
All right. Well, Uncle Dan.
Yes, sir.
We are very delighted to have in studio somebody who's going to help us with a fascinating how-to section.
Oh, yeah.
And this section is broadly how to read.
How to read.
How to engage with literature.
What I don't think we're going to be doing is teaching anybody their ABCs.
No phonetics today. But in studio, we welcome Professor K, who is a professor of English and literature as well,
yes.
And English literature.
Creative writing.
And creative writing. My gosh.
wow.
She's a triple threat.
All the things. Welcome
Professor K.
Thank you.
So you have something to elucidate us about with how to read.
I do. I'd love to elucidate you. So let me see what.
Was that a good word? Was that like
It
a
is
$3
good
word?
Good word. So.
Cool.
Yeah, basically what we're going to be doing this entire time is trying to impress you.
Okay. all right.
We'll dazzle you with our sesquipedalianism.
I'm already pretty impressed.
See what I did there? Our verboseness, verbosity.
Verbosity.
I don't.
All right.
Verbosification.
Whoa!
How about that?
Whoa! Is that even legal? What you just did?
Easy.
So, I was thinking about this an awful lot. Not just how to read, but as I read it, how to read like a heretic.
Ooh.
And I think if we're going to read like heretics, we have to unlearn an awful lot of what we used to think was reading.
Right.
So I made a list of things I think we should unlearn.
Nice. I like. We're teaching people what not to learn, or what to. We're teaching people backwards.
How to unring the bell? Is that what you're saying?
Strip it back.
Which is tough
strip
to
it back.
do. All right. What
Absolutely.
do you got? What do you got?
I was raised Mormon, so I've dropped in some Mormon cliches and Mormon references, along with other kinds of religions and other kinds of fundamentalism. So for what that's worth.
Great.
Here's number one. If you think you belong to the only true and living church upon the face of the whole earth, then your reading list is very short, and your reading tactics must be violently self-policed. Most of us raised in deep religion learned to read by carefully learning how not to read. So we have to keep learning stripping back and reassembly skills, I think. So
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So in capital T truth world, we were born pure. We have to stay pure. We're innately programmed to feel bright and happy in the warm golden shower of capital T truth. By our very nature, we feel dark and sad and confused under the assault of the world. We must disengage and retreat. We must vigilantly, there's a big word, protect that clean crystal vase of a soul that Heavenly Father planted into our carnal, sensual, and devilish bodies.
Right? Why do you do that? It seems like such a weird thing to do.
Yeah.
Just take this pretty little soul and stick it into that big pile of gunk.
Well, you're not supposed to ask.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, don't argue, right?
That was my
This
fault.
is authority. Otherwise, you become impure simply by asking that question. I see you becoming impure right now. So
And knock it
it's
off.
happening.
That is a became.
Right.
That is not a becoming.
Right.
It has long since happened.
It's our job to trudge along the straight and narrow path, clinging to the iron rod, soul wrapped in overcoat, looking neither to the right nor the left, never considering the perversity of the assignment, as you are. Always sheltering that fragile and pollutable soul from dirt and rocks and swears and phallic imagery until we've logged the whole marathon, at which point we will be welcomed into a heaven of clean and intact crystal vases.
Oh, that sounds boring.
It sounds pretty, doesn't it?
Pretty.
It sounds empty.
Yeah.
We have a major axe to grind with heaven, but we're not doing that.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
That's exactly
It's
right.
the
So-
dumbest concept in all religion, but we'll.
Hey, but we're working to reinvent it year episode after episode.
That's true. We for $10 patronage, Professor K, we will craft a custom heaven for that $10 patron.
For every patron. That's
Yeah.
right.
I
Be
know someone
warned,
who could help you
$10
draw that
patrons.
up. Yeah, this is actually kind of a Lacanian principle to get all academic. There's one theory of the self that we're born intact and everything was made before we showed up. And then there's another theory that we become ourselves by accumulating a lot of stuff as we go along. So we're working toward the kind of reading that helps us become ourselves by accumulating rather than purging.
Yeah, I kind of believe in the latter, but yes.
Yeah, I feel like,
Absolutely.
it's all I got right now. I mean, I don't know what to do with. I'm already pure, and now it's just a matter of like trying to fend away impurities.
Right. Like what is that? That means zero learning, zero intake, no interface.
Your term, did you say violent self-policing?
Yes, I did say
I
that.
think is brilliant because it's very much how, a lot of us went through religion that to, especially now in the information age, to continue to believe is a radical act of self-enforced ignorance, or like you say, violent
Absolutely.
self-policing.
And that's what we learn instead of
And it is
whatever
a-
we're trying to learn now.
It is a violence that one does on oneself. I know how badly I treated myself when I was trying so hard to believe things. So yeah, violent self-policing is exactly the term.
Well, and it's a cruelty. It means shut down your senses, shut down your heart, shut down your day-to-day experiences and anything you might gain from them because it's already interpreted for you.
Yeah, it feels like a tragedy.
So yeah, and that's part of what you're suggesting is that it's that methodology that has to be unlearned and unwound
Absolutely.
and banished so that you can have a more open five senses and a functioning intellect to.
Well, sure. And in my classes, if I have a classroom full of students who have learned to never take anything in, to have a long, endlessly expanding list of what they can't read,
Yeah.
that's antithetical to literature.
Well, yes, clearly that, but also antithetical to their own enrichment.
Absolutely.
And so let's just take these presumed young'uns or old ones. I mean, we know we've got lots of people who listening who were raised in equally restrictive environments where the whole goal is to keep at bay all of the snarling dogs of life that are trying to infect them. And now they're ready to read something.
Yeah.
But it's scary out there and they don't know where to start. And Lord knows I mean, my family was never one of those super restrictive Mormon families, but I can imagine a lot of these people who are told, don't read anything that's not edifying, that's not faith promoting. They just wouldn't know where to begin.
Yeah, I think before we started recording, Professor K, you said you used the word intimidating, that it's intimidating. And so many of our segments, these how-to segments, a big factor is intimidation. Like, how do you start drinking?
Right.
How do you come out as a skeptic? How do you read? We're going to be doing segments of a sexual nature, and so much of it is intimidation, especially the further down the road you are.
Right.
So it's one thing when you're like 17, you're like, no, I'm going to start reading some stuff. I'm going to catch up. But what do you do when you're 40?
Right.
What do you do when you're 35 and you've never read anything outside the canon of your religion, and most of which, we've read some of it, is horrible. It's not only religious indoctrination, it's shit as literature and as storytelling.
Well, and you get these Christian authors or these, one would presume Muslim or Jewish authors who are trying to write faith promoting novels or whatever.
Right.
And every time, I don't know, my personal view is that every time someone starts writing with an agenda, literature falls away. Like once you have this goal for what your book or what you're writing is going to be making people think or whatever, it stops being art and starts just being a screed.
Right.
So what do we do when we've got a bunch of screed readers?
So continue, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think part of my answer is, since this is about reading, writers can do whatever they damn well please, but we don't have to obey. I mean, there are perverse ways of reading. There are disobedient ways of reading. There are ways of combing the fur up instead of combing it down. In a lot of ways, our skill as readers is to lose the idea that we have to obey the text, answer to it in the way that it was intended. And I'll keep referring to Roland Barthes here, but he talked about the death of the author. Really, whoever wrote it and whatever they were at the time they were writing it is long gone, and we just kind of have this artifact that has all kinds of potential interpretations and meanings. But if we believe that the authority is in the author and then in the text and in the intention, then we've limited the incredible number of ways we can approach a text. And I think as English professors we do the same thing. We get our students out of their religious creeds and then we hand them the official canon and tell them they're not true or classy or official readers unless they've read our list of what's great, or our list of what's good, or our list of what's transgressive. And, we have to do that to a certain point.
There are the
goal,
classics. We can't ignore them.
Sure. Well, but the eventual goal is learn how to be a reader, not take in all the books that I told you to. And in that sense, we are hoping to set our students and our readers free to read for the rest of their lives without our careful instructions and without our dogmas, as professors as well, because I think we can fall for that too.
Right, that's
Yeah.
no different. If you were to do that, sorry, Dan, if you were to do that, you're just perpetuating the reading habit and the methods that
Right.
that people brought out of a religious reading life.
Yeah, and of course we love that response, and then it's like, oh, I get to read whatever I want, and I get to make it mean whatever I want. You do get to, but some of us get a lot better at interacting with the text because we practice, we spend a lot of time with it, we read a lot of different things, and we sort of join as Hawthorne says, join the communion of our race. We enter a community of people who are committed to reading and committed to everything it can give us instead of what it's simply supposed to give us.
I think that's interesting. I love the notion of transgressive reading, of reading with of approaching a text not from its point of view, but from your own, or from or allowing yourself to have different points, to ask different questions of a book. Or
we might be a different person every time we return, every time we come back. We're not necessarily assigned to be only a certain kind of reader at certain points either. So there's a dynamism that kind of comes into our, I don't know, what I would say are our best and current theories of what it means to read and why. It's a kind of a continuous interaction. In fact, I'll go on more about how it's an erotic motion. It's come back to your lover, come back to someone else, keep touching, keep returning, keep finding each other, keep accumulating memories and connections and relationships. And, in that sense, it becomes a continuous and erotic and sensual and giving relationship.
I love that.
Yeah.
I also love, though, I feel like tucked into some part of what you're saying is the notion that we don't have to be precious about any one particular book. Meaning, if the whole world loves Huckleberry Finn and you read Huckleberry Finn and you don't get it, you don't like it, that's a valid response. I know that I always felt the pressure that if I didn't like, one of the things that has been proclaimed to be the great thing, that somehow I was broken, or that somehow I was not being successful as a reader.
Sure. This is kind of the old humanist tradition. You can see how it patterns after religion, that language is some pure, glorious thing, and it reflects the pure, glorious creation, and our minds and our language were created to be perfect translations of God's intentions and God's understanding and God's meaning. And so, in that sense, this gave us our sort of like weird tradition of saying certain kinds of literature are true and glorious and universal and everyone should understand them, or there's something wrong with you, not something idiosyncratic about the text.
So I feel like you're saying that Dan should not be ashamed of his lifelong love of Danielle Steele.
Embrace Danielle Steele.
She was just talking about how sexy reading is earlier.
Yeah.
You can't stop me from reading my...
And that woman's hot.
Oh, yeah.
So let me ask
Steamy.
you a question, Professor K. Like when you have students who came out of, the way reading was done was to read the prescribed text in a certain way, not looking for subtext, not looking for other sorts of meaning.
Certainly not looking for anything that could be fallible or incorrect about the text.
And also reading it ahistorically, meaning don't look at, don't talk about that these were oral traditions like the Bible. Don't talk about that these were Iron Age and Stone Age, oral traditions that got passed down and blah, 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 blah. So if
it has nothing to do with the little person who wrote it unless they are in a state of sort of prophetic transcendence.
Right.
And then they simply become the conduit of truth and absolutism.
So what is the experience that you think those students are having? How are they doing it? What do they have to unlearn when they go from reading the Book of Mormon to, I don't know, suggest a book that you would that is in one of your classes that they would be required to read?
Sure. Well, I have a couple of tactics, and one of them is to get dark with the metaphors. So I'll give you one.
Yeah.
If we insist we're unique, which religion tends to do, certainly my religion, it's the only one that's right. It creates a tribe of vampires. And I'm going to follow through on that metaphor carefully, so I'm not misquoted later on.
We are going to edit it so that you will definitely be misquoted.
Sure, okay.
That will be our
Good,
goal.
I'll just count on that and then I'll relax. So,
This is all going to be scrambled up. Don't worry about it.
So, you can't see yourself in a mirror, and literature is a mirror. You're supposed to somehow look at the text, read the story, and see something of yourself that you can identify and relate to. And if you can only identify and relate to the pure and perfect truth that everybody else understands, then you're always feeling lost. But if you're positive that you're the only truth, only is a brutal boundary. You have to absorb no likeness besides your pre-assigned Jesus wants me for a sunbeam mask. You must not see yourself in the strange chambers of a character or poem or a story or a news account or a history or even one of those really loony, heartfelt testimonies that someone's raving on and sobbing about up in the pulpit. You can't see yourself even in parts or slivers or threads. So you reside outside of the gorgeous human capacity for empathy, which I think is one of the things literature is about, except as it conforms to dogma. You live in an eternally unchanged, unalterable adolescence in all of its self-preserving disavowals, drinking the blood of the pulsing human race to sustain your rosy, unlined features. You want to stay intact forever, and you're going to suck the sorrow and pain and blood out of everybody else to keep yourself looking exactly the way you want to. There's something about not being able to see yourself in the reflection of other people or the pages that other people have written and the characters and scenarios that they presented to you that I don't think is terribly consistent with the best heart of my religious students. I think that's antithetical to how they want to relate to the world and how they see themselves as compassionate people. But the metaphor of uniqueness and onlyness cuts them off from that sequence of reflections and
But not
interactions.
individual uniqueness. You're talking about collective uniqueness.
Absolutely. I mean, unique, in the universal sense, saying, okay, you're part of the only truth.
The only received truth directly
Absolutely.
from God. And that, I think you're right. There's nothing particularly beautiful about that. I mean, superficially, yes.
Right.
There's something, oh my God, where we have all, this font of wisdom. But
Anything
you're
in
right.
the world is not like you. And if you can't find out what's like you, if you can't recognize affinity, relationship, common experience, common sorrow, common confusion and perplexity, those pages have nothing to give to you. Those are just deluded people who don't have the true gospel, and that's why they're deluded, and end of story.
It's an interesting thing. It's an interesting trick that I think religion has played on a lot of people, which is that this trick that, yes, because you're one of us, you're better, you're perfect, you're above, you're in the world but not of the world.
Right. Which I will address.
And
in a few minutes.
yet there's this sense that also within that context, you're broken and I'm the only person that can fix you.
Exactly. Right.
So yes, you're one of us, so hooray. But also everything you do is wrong, and sort of there's almost an acknowledgement that you can't extract yourself from the human race. You can't not be a human, but there's this denial of what is humanity.
Sure.
It's an interesting.
It's a fucked up dichotomy, and it's
it really
It is.
is.
And it's a self-contradicting concept. I mean, it's a paradox, and it's
Yeah.
an impossible one to live, to say you're unique because you are exactly like God's people. All of your information comes from God, not from learning from the common experience of humanity. If you cannot be part of common humanity, you can't. The premise of writing literature and reading literature is human to human. mistake to mistake, screwed up vision to screwed up vision. I mean, and that's a completely different way of looking at writing and at what writing and reading might be about, because we're taught that you read to get the right answers, end of story.
And if you read the wrong answer,
right,
you're polluted in some way.
Yeah, and
it's
you
so
have no way of
weird
interacting.
because there's this weird concept that floats around that even that if you just encounter evil, if you let it be part of, if you try to even gain some understanding of it, it infects you. You are infected. So you can't read anything that you would ever perceive as being evil, even if it's a story that that doesn't glorify the evil. It's just, but if it gives you a dark feeling inside, or if it, whatever.
If it challenges the dogma, if it challenges the dogma in some way.
And even if it doesn't challenge the dogma, even if it's just a gross story, a story about a bad person.
That's what I mean. Doesn't challenge it directly. Doesn't say the Book of Mormon say is not true, but is like, here's a story about young people enjoying their lives and exploring life.
Oh yeah,
sexually and and learning things. That's a challenge to the dogma, even though it doesn't directly confront it, right?
Those people are not following the proper path. You should not emulate them in any way.
You shouldn't even expose yourself to them.
Since we're whole people and unbreakable and a single unitary thing, you can't even look and say, well, that's kind of like when you can't do any of that stuff. It has to be, it's wholesale. I've got a good example. I was teaching as a graduate student a long time ago at BYU, and we were kind of talking about some of this, again, before I was thoroughly corrupted, so I was trying to work it out as well. But I remember a lot of my students really trying to think through questions of literature. What does it mean to us? Why should we read this? And so I brought in Flannery O'Connor's The Catholic Novelist in the Protestant South. It's a really beautiful essay, and if you know O'Connor, she's faithful Orthodox Catholic. All of her writing is, she says, absolutely committed and a reflection of her Catholicism. But her stories are very dark. They're very complex. Very often, her philosophy in writing, at least, is that our true characters are revealed in a violent situation or in an extremely absurd situation. So her moments of grace are quite frightening and quite brutal, and kind of strip a character down to, okay, what are you really now when everything you understand has fallen away?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful essay. And again, my BYU students at the time, I was just a little bit older than they were. I didn't have it all figured out, and I still don't. But the essay fell completely flat because the consensus was, yeah, but she's Catholic. Isn't that strange?
That's amazing.
Even in that sense, we couldn't even make a tiny leap from saying, okay, this religious dilemma and this religious exploration is not like mine. There was no mirroring at all. I mean, when I keep thinking about that, because for me, that was a really powerful moment of really going home to think, wait, what are we...
That is a terrible... Why are you even at school at that? Like, that is a terrible... It's misunderstanding of what the whole situation is.
Yeah, the entire premise of we speak to each other, and there might be some differences between us, but there are some really important likenesses. But again, if you live in vampire land and you can't look in the mirror and you can't perceive any reflection except, your preconceived image of yourself, you can't read. You can't read. And you have learned to keep yourself from reading. You've absolutely learned to keep yourself immune from its effects.
So I think Mark tried to push you to this earlier, but are there some jumping off points that you would recommend for new readers? Are there some places that you would send people?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for one, it doesn't hurt to take a lit class. That's really fun because. But you don't have to. I didn't really come here to be a professor as much as
you came here to shill for the institution.
That's right.
I see what this is.
Once again,
book clubs are great. But I talked to a friend who's a publisher of a really fine independent press a while ago, and she said there are lots of books and a lot of readers out there. But even among sort of reading culture, the marketing systems make everybody who calls themselves a reader in the United States read the same thing. I mean, we'll all read Donna Tartt. We'll all read, I mean, we'll all read whatever the New York Times tells us to read. And there's never been a time in the United States in our sort of publishing history that so much good, independent, one-on-one, kind of bring it back to the grassroots writing is going on. I'll quote Roland Barthes again. He said, instead of like gobbling up books, try grazing, try just kind of eating the grass at the surface for a while, go over here, try this, try that. You don't necessarily have to read a book beginning to end. And I think that's really thwarting for a new reader or someone who feels kind of intimidated by it. You've got to have this list of books. You have to read it from beginning to end. You have to put it on your list of stuff you've read. You have to, in a certain way, it's almost like
work,
collecting stuff.
And it's work. It's not reading for pleasure. It's not reading for fulfillment. It's, it's like reading when you read in religion. I've got to read the goddamn book of this. I've got to get through.
Right. Which you do as you slog your way through the religious texts, and you never learn any of it. You never actually pay attention. You just make sure that all of the words in that order went into your eyeballs. Right.
And you say, okay, I read that, because you turned every single page and your eyes went past every single word.
Right.
There's again that kind of sense of a long-term relationship with the books that we come to love, which means we return to them. Sometimes we go back to this single chapter. Sometimes we go back looking for a particular thematic thread or sequence of images. And in that sense, we sometimes will graze through a whole lifetime library. And I'm a big fan of reading a book all the way through, but that's not the only way to read.
Do you know you're the first person that's ever suggested that to me?
That's given Dan permission to just go,
what an amazing thought. You can just put a book back down. You can pick it up, just read a bit. You can dive into the middle of it.
Professor K, I respect your not wanting to make the list. But here's a question.
Okay.
To make a list.
Okay.
But here's a question. With your students who come out of a very doctrinaire, and you have had a lot of students that came from very conservative Mormon country.
Right.
What is a book where you saw the scales fall away, where you saw a kid who never learned to, quote unquote, read, meaning engage
Really get
one-to-one as a human being with the literature? What's a great example of that mind suddenly going...
This is actually kind of a surprising answer, because I'm going to answer with a pretty epic novel. I had a student who, really a bright guy, really one of my favorite students ever. And, a good reader, but getting there, And he talked about his relationship with his very authoritarian father.
In story, he wrote this story.
Right, or in conversations and sometimes maybe the gift of reading a lot of books carefully and well, like I have, simply because it's what I do for a living, means I can spot, okay, this one really might be a wonderful book for you to read.
I see. You can tailor a little bit. Yeah,
sure.
So I suggested, at least for a summer reading, just on your own time, why don't you read Russell Banks' Cloud Splitter, which is an absolutely amazing. It's I'm guessing it's 400, 500, 600 pages. I mean, it's one of those fat books that sits on your shelf.
It's a doorstop.
Right. Banks really specializes. His literature, again and again, his stories are about incredibly tortured and pained and beautiful and loving relationships between messed up fathers and sons. And Cloud Splitter is about Owen. It's narrated by Owen Brown, who is in real life is the son of John Brown, the crazy abolitionist. Violent, after the right cause against slavery, and yet absolutely messed up in his fanaticism and his absolutism. So to narrate the entire kind of long-term family history of John Brown as it culminates at Harper's Ferry, from the perspective of his incredibly troubled and devastated son, is personally one of the most beautiful things I've ever read.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
And for my student, he wrote back a couple of months later. He said, I sat down and I read it nonstop for 5 days until I had read every word. He said, I'm completely shattered. And there's so many books like that. There's
Wow.
so many writers like that who are about the project of exploring and tracing terrible and beautiful and devastating experience of what it means to love your family, to live in your time, to fuck up your life so badly you can never return from it, to the point that it becomes the definition of your life. For me, it was an incredibly powerful piece of reading. For him, at least by his expression, that was the life changer. And it was a challenging book. That's a big book. You know?
But that was a consciousness raising moment for him, probably. And
He felt like it spoke directly to him. And
Yep.
and that's would be my big recommendation on learning how to read. You know, there's a lot of stuff that might be surprising, might be, okay, I wouldn't read this, but somebody recommended it. Okay, I had to read it for my English class. Okay, it was entertaining, but, you know, we read enough, and sometimes we find those books that we imagine maybe aren't universally written for everybody, but something happened to speak directly from that author and that experience to you. And I can't think of a less academic reason to read and a better reason to read.
I love that.
yeah,
And
same.
I do want to unpack one thing that I think might be a potential stumbling block for some people, and that is, you know, the moment that you described when you said he wrote back to you, this student of yours, and was shattered. And I think that some people fear that shattering.
Oh, absolutely. We
fear-
ought to. It's terrifying.
It is terrifying. And I think that, like, I feel like part of this journey, part of the journey of learning to engage with all art, but in this case with literature, is a self journey of learning to be shattered and be okay.
Well, it's the same fucking problem as being alive on the planet, you know? I mean, now I'm going to go into mommy mode and say if there's any righteous thing I ever told my kids is don't die until the day you die. Stay alive on this planet.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think maybe what's hard for a lot of people coming out of religion is not understanding that being human means being vulnerable to experience in a way that they have not been, that they've been completely cloistered and armored and protected from a world that was fallen and terrifying and sinful, and that, you know, when you open yourself up to being shattered by that book, and I had the same experience with a much narrower tome, The Great Santini.
Oh, yes.
Because,
Absolutely.
you know, I had a very tough relationship with my dad, and I saw myself in that space, and it changed my life, you know. So,
yeah, and I think we all have those moments where it's like, you know, you can't really do this by yourself. And when as an undergraduate, I thought I was going to be an art major because I could draw shit, you know? And I realized I'd hit my limits within a semester or two of being an art major. So I floundered around for a while. I'd always read my whole life, but kind of just as an intuitive thing. You know, not very conscious in my methods or anything of the kind. But I took a couple of literature classes. They were just GE courses, and the professors kept saying, how did you get 100% on the test? I'm just like, well, I followed the plot. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, some of us have a bit more of an inclination to do that than others. But I remember at a certain point really kind of accumulating enough reading as a gradually converted English major to start feeling really, really resentful that all this unbelievably cool stuff had been going on without me my whole life. I was so amazed. And I was like, I really felt like, why didn't anybody let me see this? Why didn't anyone tell me this? And the kind of just elucidations. And I just fell in love with language. It could do stuff that I had always been taught to keep it from doing, you know? You grow up as a nice little religious girl, and if you have any inclination for language, you're immediately dangerous. Like Emily Dickinson says, you know, handled with a chain. And that's a brutal image, but it's true. I mean, it really rings true. And that's so, if you're a good kid, which I think a lot of us really want to be as we grow up in religious places, we want to do what's right, we want approval, then we learn, again, very carefully to make sure that we restrict language to its most minimal significations. We reduce it down. We get one pale, sickly yellow color, and that's all the color you get forever, your whole life.
Yeah,
that is beautifully said. And what you said about all this going on without you, while you weren't aware of it. I think that is such a brilliant way to say what so many people feel when they come out, are coming out of religion, and they start to discover,
this whole world's waiting for you. And
I was 22 before I had Thai food. And I was furious.
Yeah, like
I was
what the hell?
Seriously. So I think it's a similar thing.
If you grow up with salt and pepper,
yeah,
which is a pretty good equivalent to reading.
I have a Scottish mother. There wasn't much salt and pepper.
Well, not even that.
Mostly boiled.
So.
Well, Professor K, this has been amazing. I think that we couldn't ask for a better place to leave this.
Yep.
Hopefully we'll have you back and we'll talk further about grazing.
We'll rave on.
Jumping in.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for coming, and moving on.
Moving right along.
Well, friends, that's it for this week's show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email if you want to, which is howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or you can leave us a voicemail if you want at 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-88-6986.
That's right. Hey, if you want to be a patron of our show and help us out, you can go to howtoheretic.com and click on that patron button and become fabulous in that way.
Please do. And we'd like to thank the amazing Cody Layton for producing and editing the show.
Yeah, and thank you guys for all tuning in. Boy, we sure do appreciate that.
You betcha. Bye-bye, friends.
Bye now.